Welcome back, everyone, to the College Football Pick'em Pod. Here with our Week 11 picks. Miami's coming off a big win against Florida State. That's really all that matters this season. Nothing else. I mean, I guess we can still win the Coastal, but that is a big win. That is meaningful. I went 7-5 last week. Had some good wins. Had some pretty brutal losses also. I went 7-5 last week before that, and that one felt really good. This one didn't feel as good, but I did have another money line hit, so that always feels good. I'm liking these 12 pick weeks. I think I'm going to try to do. I only have 11 right now. I'm going to try to find a 12 pick out there somewhere. See if I can, sprinkle in an 8 and 4. I've done that a couple of times. But I think whenever I do 12 picks, I usually do really well. If I do like 13 or 15 picks, I end up going like 6 and 7 or something.
Yeah,
or like 6 and 8. So we don't want to do that.
Yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No joke. I have 7 picks this week.
Whoa, that is thin.
I'm in the doghouse, man. I'm in the doghouse, and I'm Willie Taggart. Okay, I am the Willie
fired
Taggart
off of this podcast.
I am the Willie Taggart of podcasting. I'm going to keep sitting here and saying the future is looking bright. Everything is looking good. But honestly, until the day I'm fired, this is just going to be a train wreck. It's going to be a disaster. We're going to be a joke of a program, Will, until the day I'm fired. So anytime
we need to find someone to buy you out.
We need. Where are the donors? I mean, honestly, what did they end up paying? Like $20 million to buy out the rest of his contract? If somebody wants to give us $20 million to get me the hell out of here, CanesInsight.com is now taking donations. Get me off this podcast because I have been dreadful.
And like I said, I have 11 picks and I want to get it up to 12 because 12 has been a good number for me. I'm just going to find one that you're taking that I disagree a little bit with, play the opposite side. And I did that last week with the Kansas State-Kansas game. I hopped on Kansas State just because I disagreed with your Kansas pick, and it ended up working out for me. So maybe I'll find more than one pick. I don't know.
You probably can. I mean, honestly, if you want to fade me, these are your 7 locks to lose this week. But you know what? I mean, Willie Taggart, I'm going to start selling Willie Taggart t-shirts because as far as I'm concerned, he's the best thing to ever happen to FSU. I mean, if you're a Seminoles fan, you got to be so pumped that they got rid of Jimbo to get Willie Taggart. You've just been dominant since you got him. I can't believe they got rid of him like this. It's such a shame. I feel so bad for Florida State football, and I hope that people actually do tune into the YouTube channel over here, which is just my name, so it's not even really the College Football Pick'em Pod YouTube channel. But if you want to watch me, I am saying this all with such a smile because we've been so obnoxious this year. The Miami Hurricanes, we should have beaten. If we would have beaten Georgia Tech, we'd pretty much be in the driver's seat right now to win the Coastal, which is so insane because we beat Pittsburgh and we beat Virginia. But I don't want to dwell on the bad. That was the easiest win we've had over Florida State since I've given a crap about Miami football. And because of that, it just feels so nice. And to see Willie get fired after that and just to know how depressed the Seminoles fans are.
Aren't they excited though? Isn't that good? Like, don't they want?
Yeah, but it's the same. Weren't we excited when Golden got fired? And how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, we were excited. I think we made a good hire. I mean, basically what you're doing, if you're Miami or Florida State, you're just waiting until you get the right coach that actually can have a positive influence on your program. And you give them 3 years, maybe not even. I mean, Willie Taggart got like a season and a half, but
did he deserve more than that? Yeah, he didn't deserve. He shouldn't have even finished his first season.
He did not deserve more than that. I mean, it was clear that he was kind of in over his head. He just wasn't he wasn't ready to have a job that big. I mean, Manny Diaz has had some bad losses so far in his coaching career, and I get it. It's year 1. This is a big win for him, though. Mm-hmm. This is a big win. We'll get into all the picks, all the action. Anything you want to talk about from last week's games?
Just one last thing I want to say about Manny Diaz is this is a win that prevents you from getting fired. And I didn't think they were going to fire Diaz after the first year, but this is a win that kind of silences people because you beat your rival in their stadium by a lot. And even it doesn't matter how bad FSU is, the fact that you win that game means so much. It really does. That's like now you're going to get a bowl. Now win your bowl game. You win the bowl game. You beat FSU. Next year, win the Coastal, compete for the ACC. Small steps. But in terms of last week, I just wanted to say Appalachian State was the team I was riding high on. They were 16.5-point favorites. I kept picking them to win. Being the curse I am, they end up losing to Georgia Southern at home It's just a bad loss. Poor Appalachian State.
Yeah.
They're out of it now. Michigan, easiest bet of all time, though, Will. Like, honestly, we both had 20 on it, I think. Or you had 15, I had 20. But is that the easiest bet of all time? Because I got it right.
Yeah, if you got it right. I was on that too. That was nice. Bowling Green covered the
easy bet.
-6. I love they stomped Akron. Akron isn't playing this week, unfortunately. How about we disagreed on the Virginia Tech Notre Dame game? You had Notre Dame minus 17.5. How did that one turn out for you?
Yeah, they won. My sister's sad, so I'm okay with it. As long as Virginia Tech loses, I'm fine with it.
I had plus 17.5. That was no sweat there whatsoever. Virginia Tech almost won that outright. I went 7-5, and two of my losses were Florida +6 and Florida plus 200, the money line there.
Mm-hmm.
So that one just got chalked it up to Georgia's defense being as good as they are. I mean, it's impressive. Georgia's offense didn't do anything to really impress me. It was kind of what I expected out of their offense. It was just Florida on the offense could not combat Georgia's defensive front. And Georgia's offensive line also played really well. They were able to handle the pressure that Florida usually is able to give to those teams. So kudos to Georgia. I still don't think I'm still not super high on Georgia. I don't think there's some great team. I thought Florida had a chance to snag them there, and it is what it is. I did hit the under on that though, under 47. So that felt good.
That was good. Well, being that I'm only taking 7 picks this week, maybe you should be our fearless leader for most of these, since you're going to have games that I don't have. We do have the biggest game of the year, though, Alabama versus LSU. That's going to be a really fun game to talk about. We also have Penn State taking on Minnesota in a battle of undefeateds, which is kind of an unexpected one. So there's a lot of good matchups to be looking forward to this week. But I only have 7 games that I bet. We also have Iowa going to Wisconsin and kind of like the average Big Ten bowl, I would call it, like the mediocre.
I've got a very weird slate here with a theme.
So well, I'm glad you have a theme, because my theme is
low number.
I picked teams. Yeah, I picked 7. I took 7 bets.
Yeah, whenever the theme arises, it's never a forced theme that I'm looking for. But my theme pretty much, I was just going through the games and in order on Saturday. I don't have anything Thursday, Friday, or Tuesday.
Either. Yeah.
And I'm just loving the Big Ten slate. I think I'm on, I don't know how many. I'm on a lot of Big Ten games. So it's a big
4 of my 7 bets are Big Ten.
Yeah, I think I feel like I have a pretty good feel on that conference and what's going on there. So let's start off. You mentioned it already. Iowa at Wisconsin. You have anything on this game?
I do. I like Iowa plus 8.5. I think that's a big number.
I think it's a really big number. I am also on Iowa plus 8.5. I mean, it's just 2 really good defenses and 2 underperforming offenses, so it should be a close game. I mean, both these defenses have pitched shutouts this season. Iowa's done it twice. Wisconsin's done it 4 times. And on the Iowa side, they've played in 4 games now where no team has scored more than 20. So, I mean, these are just – Iowa is a low-scoring team on offense and defense. And then Wisconsin has shown it can put up numbers on offense, and usually its defense keeps teams pretty low. But Wisconsin I don't think it's going to have an easy time scoring on Iowa at all. So, I mean, this is just going to be a close game. I guess I might worry about a 20-10 win, something like that for Wisconsin. But it should, 8.5 is a good chunk of points there. Iowa can lose by a touchdown and still cover. So I really do like this. I have 15 on it.
Yeah, I have 15 on it as well. I just think it's too
sorry
big.
To interrupt. Iowa could win this game. I forgot to say that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Possible? Yeah.
Absolutely. I just don't think Wisconsin's that good. I worry that Jonathan Taylor might be able to kind of run a little bit all over Iowa. Not that he should have too easy of a time running all over Iowa, but I could see him doing it. It's just what have we seen? I mean, I know Cohn looked really good at the beginning of the year, but what have we seen recently that leads us to believe that he's going to be great? And since their 38-0 win over Michigan State, which was nearly a month ago, they've lost 24-23 to Illinois and 38-7 to Ohio State. Then they had their bye. Maybe it's a kind of a get right spot, but Iowa doesn't lose by a lot. That's just not something they do. They lost to Michigan 10-3. They lost to Penn State 17-12. Remember, the Michigan game was at the Big House, so that's not easy. I just think that this is a low scoring, almost bad football. Like it's going to be so ugly. You're going to be convinced it's bad. And I think that we finish here with like a 14-10, maybe a 17-14 highest scoring. I mean, the over-under is only at, when I saw it this morning, it was at 38.5. It might be down to 38 now.
I was looking at taking the under. It's a little too low for me.
A little too low, but at the same time, I don't really know if it's going to go above it.
It probably won't. I mean, it's still probably the right play. I would never want to bet an over in this matchup, but it was too low for me to take that side. But like what you said, I mean, they've had these close games. I mean, Penn State put up 17 points on Iowa. Like, if Penn State is only putting up 17 points, what's Wisconsin going to put up? I don't know. It's just Iowa gives offensive problems, and I don't think Wisconsin has the answer. Because they've struggled too. They struggled against Illinois. They struggled against Ohio State, who has a really good defense. They've proven they can score against mediocre defenses. They have not proven they can score against the top defense. I guess you could say Michigan is that one example, but that was a big game at home where Michigan just wasn't really doing anything to stop the run game. I mean, they were running all over Michigan. But since that game, it hasn't been there. So it's like Wisconsin probably does win this game, but 8.5, you really have to look at. How much do you have on it?
I have 15.
Same. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else on that game?
No, that's all I have on that game. Lift up maybe your headphones. That's about it. Let's move on to. Sorry, I'm trying to send everything I can. Let's move on to another Big Ten game in which I have two bets because I always bet twice on Ohio State, and it hasn't screwed them over yet. I don't know how they keep on doing what they're doing, despite me betting on them all the time. But going over to this Ohio State game, they are playing against the dreadful Maryland Terrapins, who at one point looked like the surprise of the season, and now, God, they're just bad. This is a noon game. It's at Ohio State. Ohio State is a 42.5-point favorite, and I'm taking them. But I am also taking the under because I don't trust Maryland to do anything in this game. I mean, Maryland has been as bad as a football team can be in recent weeks. Last week, they lost to Michigan 38-7 as 18.5-point dogs. They lost to Minnesota 52-10. They lost to Indiana 34-28. They lost at Purdue 40-14. They only beat Rutgers by 41, which says a lot about your team. They lost to Penn State 59-0. Now remember, this is after their first two games of the season where they were just dominating. Their offense looked great. I know Josh Jackson got hurt, but wow, has their offense been terrible. If Michigan beats them 38-7, I really fear that this is a 56-0 final score, maybe 56-3. I don't think Maryland puts a touchdown on the board here, and I think Ohio State is playing the fourth quarter trying to drain the clock rather than put points on the board. So I like Ohio State to cover the 42.5, but I also like this game to go under at 63. I have 15 on the under of 63, and I also have 15 on minus 42.5.
I'm with you on one of these. I am on Ohio State minus 42.5, just because I'm with you. This thing should be over very quickly. It's one of those, I could see it being 35-0 in the first quarter. The under I worry about just because I could see Ohio State getting into the 60s on its own. It wouldn't be that unlikely. And there's not, I don't really have much else to add except I've been on the Ohio State train all season long. They're probably the best team in the country. It's looked just gruesome for Maryland as of late. There's no reason. I mean, Ohio State just needs to get to 50 points. Like you said, Maryland might not score. If they do, they probably keep it under 10 or under, I would say, at most. So
that's what I think.
I'm with you there. That's another one. Another Big Ten matchup that I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I just think it's too easy, and we're gonna get our first college football playoff poll coming out.
And
tomorrow.
If they're not number one, oh man,
they're not.
I like it even more.
Yeah, they're not going to be number one. I'm curious to see what it's going to be, though, considering LSU plays Bama this week. So I have a sneaking suspicion we are going to see Bama and LSU as 1-2 so that we can have a 1-versus-2 matchup. And then Ohio State is going to be number 3. And the committee or whatever it actually is going to do that because they know one of those teams going to lose this week and they can just jump Ohio State over them next week.
Yeah.
But they want the 1 versus 2 matchup. So my prediction is LSU 1, Bama 2, Ohio State 3. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's about right. I mean, that's what the AP poll has it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much do you have on this?
15 on both.
See, I only have 10 on this spread, but if Ohio State comes out and they are number 1, I'll leave it at 10. But if they are not the number 1, let's say they're number 3, then I want 15 on it. So might as well pencil in 15 for now.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're going to end up getting 15 because they're not going to be number 1. They're just not going to be number 1. There's no way when you have LSU playing Alabama, you're going to get them at number 1. It's just not going to happen.
Wait, that comes out tomorrow, right?
Comes out tomorrow night. For some reason, they do it on Tuesdays.
It's so silly.
Probably just because there's literally nothing on TV
on
Tuesday
Tuesdays.
night.
They do a whole show. They get the ad money. It's a whole charade for it.
You know how I find out? I look online at 9:30 when it's over. That's how I'm going to find out. Like, sorry guys, I know that what does the guy call it? The mothership. The mothership wants my money, but I'm not going to pay attention. Just not going to do it. All right, can I kill my Big Ten bet since like I have 4 bets in the Big Ten? Can we kill the Big Ten and then talk elsewhere?
Sure. Let's go to Penn State, Minnesota, right?
Penn State, Minnesota, man, and this is a tough one for me because it's in Minnesota, and this has to be the biggest game in Minnesota, like since the Vikings threw that really big pass to New Orleans. Like, when was the last time that a college game in Minnesota was as big as this one? Seriously.
I really can't remember the last time Minnesota has been that relevant. I feel like
there's a time we're probably not remembering.
Like 2012, 2011, did they have – I felt like they had like a quarterback that was like fun to watch. I don't know. I mean, I'm really reaching, and I don't know if that's accurate.
It probably isn't. This is the biggest game Minnesota's getting in a very long time. I know their schedule has been very easy, and they've had some scares. They only beat Fresno by 3. They beat South Dakota by 7. They beat Georgia Southern by 3. They only beat Purdue by 7. But they've kind of started to find their stride recently, and I know it's been against really bad teams, Illinois, Nebraska, Rutgers, Maryland. But Illinois did beat Wisconsin, and Nebraska was supposed to be good, and they're not. And, Penn State doesn't really dominate. And unless the team is bad, like they dominated Maryland, they dominated Buffalo, they dominated Idaho, but they only beat Pitt 17-10. They only beat Iowa 17-12. They only beat Michigan 28-21. And I'm getting 7 points here. And so I kind of feel good about Minnesota.
I see it at 6.5.
Well, I see it at 7. I saw it at 7 this morning. I saw it at 7 when I wanted to make the bet. I see it at 7 at Bovada, so I'm going to Bovada, and I'm doing 7 because I wouldn't take this at 6.5. So I'm gonna say, can I say that? So like, can I get this at 7 since like I had it this morning at 7, and I'm only putting 10 on it, but I would not take this at 6.5.
Yeah, but I'm gonna take it. I'm taking Penn State minus 6.5.
Okay, yeah, I like this. We could both win. I could push. And what's your reasoning for this?
I mean, basically, and I have 20 on this. I think this is gonna be a rude awakening for Minnesota, and I get what you're saying. It's a big game, but a big game doesn't mean you're suddenly going to be a great team. This one just boils down to us not knowing about Minnesota, and I know it's week 11. We should know something about them. We really don't know.
No.
And as crazy as it sounds, you look at their schedule and what's the game where we've gotten like a reading from them on how good they are, like if they're the real deal, if they should be undefeated, all that. Like, what game do you look at and point, that's where Minnesota proved themselves? And there isn't one. Their schedule here is the teams they've played in the Big Ten so far: Purdue, who is riddled with injuries; Illinois; Nebraska, who is just fallen off a cliff. They're atrocious. And then Rutgers and Maryland.
Yeah,
I mean,
they played the worst teams you can play.
Not even Indiana is not even in there, or like in Iowa. I mean, they have just played the bottom feeders of this conference. Northwestern. They haven't played Northwestern. My apologies. But it's like they haven't played anybody, and they've had some scares. And then on the other side of it, you have Penn State, who has beaten Iowa, who has beaten their rival Pitt, who has beaten Michigan. They're used to playing in these big games. They're not going to they're going to Minnesota knowing that Minnesota hasn't lost a game all season. They know Minnesota is at home. It's not like Minnesota is sneaking up on Penn State here. Penn State is ranked number 5 in the country when there are 4 playoff spots, knowing that LSU and Alabama are playing, knowing that they will be in a top 4 spot if they're able to win this game. It's just, to me, from a team that we've seen be able to win big games this season, and they're undefeated with actually playing even average teams, as opposed to Minnesota, who, they've played everyone who's in front of them. I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying they shouldn't be ranked. I'm not saying we shouldn't give them at least a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but it's just not any of those teams. Even if Indiana even was one of those teams, I would be looking at this differently. But there's pretty much 2 possibilities, and it's either somehow Minnesota is insanely good, they're the real deal, they're like a top 10 team, top 15 team, and it's coincidentally right when they have also had the easiest schedule. That's possible.
It's kind of like the Canes a couple of years ago. Seriously, when Rozier had his great season.
Not really, though, because we beat Notre Dame.
No, but I'm saying up until that point, we had beaten nobody, and we were undefeated, and nobody believed in us. And then we took on Notre Dame, and then okay, this is their 9th game. My bad. I think it was Miami's 8th game.
I don't know. This is week 11. This is late into the season.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's similar though in the fact of, they haven't played anybody, so nobody's taking them seriously. Now they're going to get their first chance because it's a home game. And I'll give you the -6.5. And seriously, I would not touch this game if it was at 6.5. So that's why I'm saying +7 here. I'll buy the 0.5 point. I don't care. I just think it being a home game and being the way that Penn State plays, I just don't see this being a blowout. I really don't. And I don't
need to be a blowout. 6.5 isn't a blowout. And I think it could. I also see the possibility of it being. Hold on, let me finish this point. Basically, what I was saying was it's either Minnesota got really good and they're all of a sudden a top 15 team, which they weren't last year or the year before, or haven't been in some time, and they coincidentally became that when they got this very easy schedule. Or the other possibility is they're just an average team who's beaten everyone in front of them because everyone who they've played isn't very good. And that scenario is much more likely. So I have 20 on this. Penn State -6.5.
Yeah, I completely understand your reasoning, and that's why mine is only a $10, and I said I would stay away at 6.5 because I do think that it could go either way. I'm going to kind of put a little
win by 30. That wouldn't surprise me here. I also have a play on the over/under. So
are you taking the under on this?
I'm taking the under.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. That was definitely my lean. I was thinking about doing it, but I just it kind of goes back to how much do we really know about this Minnesota team. But I do think that if Penn State's going to win, which I still think Penn State wins, I just think it's like a field goal game. But if Penn State's going to win, they're going to play the way Penn State wants to play. And with the exception of that Michigan game and all their big games, it would have gone under the number, which is 47 right now, right? Is it 47 or 47.5?
I saw it at 48.
48. Okay. So it's under 40. I forget what the number was. But if it's under 48, the only game that went over 48 out of all Penn State's big games was the one against Michigan. And that was really just because they got sloppy at the end and let Michigan back in it.
And that hit 49.
49. Exactly. 28-21 final. So I don't see, I agree with you.
Really
the under's the move here. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically Penn State, they get a lead and they just sit on it.
Yeah. And what do you have so under 48, how much do you have on that?
15.
Yeah, I like where your head's at on that. Definitely in agreement with you on that. Penn State
I could see Penn State winning this 21-10. That's fine.
What do you think here? And this is from a purely betting perspective. What do you think Vegas expects the public to do in this game?
I don't know. I mean, you look at it, a lot of people love seeing the 0 in the loss column. So maybe it's wow, 2 undefeated teams, why can't Minnesota win another one? And they'll take that. It is moving towards that. It seems like Minnesota's gotten more of the action. And they're at home. It's like a home dog who's undefeated. It is a pretty juicy spot. But like I said, let me run through it once more. Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska,
no, you're right.
Rutgers, Maryland. That is their Power 5 conference schedule up to this point.
You're right. But let me say this, and this is just going back to how brilliant Vegas always is, right? So it's just going back to that and comparing this to the NFL, where I've been much better, but had a shit week this week. Green Bay goes to the Chargers, right, this week, and Vegas makes Green Bay a 3.5-point favorite. And before that game is played, you say that is the easiest money in the world. The Chargers have sucked all year. The Packers are just scoring at will. The Chargers have no defense. The Packers are going to win this. Knowing that the Packers are a very public team, Vegas is pretty much tempting you, saying, here, take the bait, take the bait, take the bait. Sure enough, the Chargers beat the shit out of the Green Bay Packers. Just beat the doors off of them. And, so sometimes it works. Then there was another one where Lamar Jackson on Sunday Night Football, his player prop, his rushing yards was set at 59.5. He ended with 61 rushing yards. Now, that 59.5 number is so low compared to what Lamar Jackson has done all year. And they're begging you to bet the over. And yes, he still went over, but you were so close to losing that, despite the fact that he's been rushing for 100 yards every week. So Vegas does this where they have somebody who just knows something.
They have algorithms. They use math. They use advanced statistics to do all this. I hear you.
But what my last point is those are two very public things, and Penn State is such a public team. And yes, Minnesota is undefeated. So to put it like this, and be saying, we're going to give you the key number, which you're getting the key number. You're getting them at 6.5. We're going to let you get Penn State at -6.5. It feels like Vegas is pretty confident in Minnesota this week, which is very weird.
I mean, it's moving down right now, so that's fine.
But to start it at 7 is crazy.
I think that's about right. I think because Minnesota is at home, they've proven they can, they're at least an average team, and a road game college football is hard on its own, week to week. I don't think this line is that tempting.
Okay. All right, what else? Let's do the rest of your games, because the only other games I have are the Canes game. I have one other ACC game, and I have the big one in LSU, Alabama. So where else are you going that we can discuss?
Let's keep it in the Big Ten. Like I said, lots of Big Ten action this week.
Okay, let's keep it in the Big Ten. I'm trying to pump up the roof here.
All right, I got. Let's go. Purdue at Northwestern. So Purdue was my lean last week as an underdog versus Nebraska, and I didn't pull the trigger, but I really should have. Purdue somehow pulls that game out of their ass. In Nebraska, I mean, they must be in shambles right now, losing to a Purdue team that's as injured as they are. But it's the same type of thing here. Purdue's -1.5 right now. And Northwestern, I've been fading them. I think I've been on Northwestern their past 3 games, fading them, and I'm 3-0 in those games. Northwestern has been as sure as anything for me lately. And this is just a Purdue team that can find a way to score. They have a lot of fight in them. They don't go down easily. And, yeah, they're on the road, but Northwestern isn't a tough place to play. I mean, it's Northwestern. Not
when they're this bad.
Their defense is it's okay, but Purdue's offense should be able to score. And Purdue has a very bad defense that can give up a ton of points, but even Northwestern's offense shouldn't be able to score a ton of points. So I just feel like the matchup here is very nice for Purdue. They can run up the score a little bit. They can score easily, and Northwestern won't be able to take advantage of the holes in Purdue's defense. So I got Purdue -1.5.
I hate to do this to you, Will, but I'm going to do it to you because we haven't done it all year. Maybe this will change my juju. I'm hopping on.
You're hopping on. I love it. You can hop on my bets. It's when I hop on your bets when we lose.
I'm only going to put 10 on it. What do you have, 15?
I have 15 on this.
I'm looking
Northwestern, Purdue has shown it can win games. It beat Nebraska. Yeah. It almost beat – it gave someone a run for their money recently, a couple weeks ago. I forget.
Yeah, they almost beat Minnesota. They lost 38-31.
There you go, an undefeated.
Yeah. And they only lost to Iowa 26-20. They haven't been bad. Here's a fun one for you.
Iowa. It's that Iowa game that really – because they really are injured. But, yeah, go on.
Yeah. So Northwestern and Purdue, right? Northwestern's 1-7, Purdue's 3-6. Northwestern is 2-6 against the spread, and the over has only hit twice in their 8 games, right? Purdue, on the other hand, 5-4 against the spread, despite their bad record, and 4-4-1 in the over-under. So 4 of their games going on, which tells me Purdue can score. And they've played well against the spread despite not being that good of a team. So why would we suddenly trust a Northwestern defense that has not been good and then trust their offense to put up any points? Because Northwestern's defense has been putting up points or has been giving up points, and still 6 games have gone under. That's how bad Northwestern's offense has been. So they probably put up some points against Purdue this week, but I do like Purdue to be able to pull away from them. Yeah, so I like this. This is a good call. It wasn't really a game I looked at too much just because I knew I wasn't going to take too many bets this week. But I really like where your head's at on this one. These are just 2 teams that, despite their bad records, they're not equally bad.
Right, exactly. Like, that's a great way to say it. They're both like in the bottom of the Big Ten, but Purdue, especially recently, has shown so much more than what Northwestern's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this bet. What's another one you got?
All right, I mean, might as well keep. I might be jumping out of order kickoff time-wise, but let's keep it in the Big Ten. This is my final Big Ten game. Then we can move around to the rest of the country. I got Illinois plus 14.5 at Michigan State. I've got 20 on this. I know Illinois is not a great football team, and that the win against Wisconsin was a little bit fluky, but I think they're on a 3-game win streak. They are growing. They are getting better. And I don't necessarily think they beat Michigan State here, although maybe looking at the money line could be good. But this is mainly a play against Michigan State as much as a play. I'm not not all that hyped on Illinois is basically what I'm trying to say. This is more looking at Michigan State and what they've been doing recently. In the month of October, Michigan State scored 17 points. 17 points in the whole month. Now, of course, they did have a bye.
That's amazing.
One of those weeks. So it was 17 points over 3 games. But they went 0-3 in October, scoring 17 points. On the other side, like I said, Illinois is on the 3-game winning streak, including the win against Wisconsin. And I mean, this is 2 touchdowns. This is a lot of points for a team that doesn't score points. I don't know how I'm expecting them to cover 14.5 of them.
So they think in their first game in November, they're going to score as many points as they did all of October.
Pretty much.
And give up 0.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I'm not really looking at the over-under here, so I don't know exactly what they're thinking, but I think Michigan can win this. I imagine this will be like I can see 23-10. That's fine. Fine with me. 27-17, 27-14. Like a 13-point win for Michigan State. That gets the job done, and it wouldn't be all that surprising.
Yeah, man. And going back to the whole Vegas point,
playing better. Maybe they pull this off. I really doubt it, but I also think Michigan State's players are probably checked out of this season. Yeah. Like, they're usually not this bad. They've had some. It hasn't been going their way. I think they're kind of over it.
Yeah, so Vegas is thinking 30-15 final, probably like 31-14. That's set at 45. But just going back to the whole Vegas knows things, Michigan State's so much more public than Illinois that this started at -13 yesterday. Like, this line came out yesterday at -13. It's already to -14.5. They knew all the early money was going to come in on Michigan State. So now you being a sharp, Will, which you've been definitely a sharp this season. You've been crushing it this season. You come in, you swoop, and you're like, thank you, got the number I wanted. And now you can be like, 28-14 sounds good to me.
Yep.
Moving on.
Yeah.
I can't believe this moved as much as it did.
I've got 20 on this. I don't see Michigan State like blowing Illinois out just from what Michigan State's been able to do, and that Illinois has actually shown it can play football.
Yeah. Sport. Yeah. What a crazy concept, huh? The Illinois football team. We need that Paul Rudd thing. Who would have thought we'd be here? Not me, huh? Like, it's just that's this. All right, Will, what else do you want to talk about here? Should we do this by conference? Should we do the ACC next and then save the SEC for last? Do you have any Big 12 action this week? I got none.
Got none on the Big 12's pretty quiet this week.
The Big 12 has been so frustrating all season, too, because they're just like, it's a roller coaster. The whole Big 12 is just like one team is up, then the other team is up. It's just like they're doing the wave, man, and nobody's in sync.
They're doing the Pac-12 thing.
They are. Do you have any Pac-12 action this week? Because
I do. Oh, I got a sneaky good play, I think.
Okay, I like sneaky good. By the way, Oregon over
So-
USC. That was one of my wins last week. You gave me a warning on that. I just
Yep.
want to say
That's true.
you did give me a warning, and Oregon won by 32 points as 5-point favorites.
It was
They
close for a while.
blew them out, dude.
But yeah.
I needed that win.
I've got I think this is a pretty good one. I've got 20 on this just because unless I'm seeing
I
this
hope you think it's
completely
good.
wrong, this is a number I don't understand where it came from. Well, I kind of actually do understand where it came from. I think that's why it's a good play. Let me get into it. Stanford is going to Colorado. So this play comes from me having the privilege of watching Stanford football. So much fun. So I was fading Stanford a bunch at the beginning of this season, and I haven't really been touching them lately. I think I took them against UCLA, where they're having all their quarterback changes, and I know you were on Washington, and I warned you, and blah, whatever. We've been kind of off Stanford for the past few weeks, but now KJ Costello is back, and he's playing pretty well. That offense is clicking, and Stanford's defense has gotten somehow worse than it has before. So now I am looking Stanford, which you usually wouldn't think of, but I'm looking at them as a great over team. So what we're doing is we're pairing the Stanford brand of, defense, hard-nosed football, and we're pairing that with KJ Costello actually playing well and Stanford's defense just not showing up to games whatsoever. Plus, they're going on the road to Colorado, who loves to give up a ton of points. Colorado's defense is probably one of the worst in the Pac-12. And Stanford, I just see them being able to score a lot of points. The total here is only at 54.5. So I like this to go. Honestly, I think I could see this being like a 40-30 type of game. I really do see this getting into like the 70s. I don't know where this number is coming from. It's from what Stanford has been able to do just in the Arizona game with KJ Costello, and then what Colorado has consistently done all season, which is allow teams to score 30 points, to score 40 points. And then what Stanford's been allowing on defense, like everything here is pointing to me. It's honestly a little scary how much I love this. So over 54.5, I got 20 on that.
Yeah, it's weird to be thinking Pac-12 football over 54.5 in a game that involves Stanford.
I think that's why there's value here. I think that's got to be it. It's just, Stanford, their offense has been slow. They slow down teams when they play defense.
I hear you.
That's probably it. That seems like a very juicy number.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to do the Canes game. Forget it, Will. Forget it. We're going to the Canes.
All right, you better be taking Louisville.
Before we get to the game, Will, we got to take a second to thank our sponsors. You know them well, Brett and everyone over at Caneswear. They got the best selection of Miami Hurricanes gear by far. Hats, jerseys, shirts you can't find anywhere else. Brand new Adidas apparel, plus their own custom clothing. Football, baseball, basketball, and much more. You name it, they got it. So head over to caneswear.com or visit the storefront in Davie. Canes basketball starts on Tuesday. We play Louisville, which is very...
Oh, yeah, that's funny. We play Louisville
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, Miami plays Louisville on the ACC network in basketball. Louisville is ranked number 5. It'll be on a half hour before Duke plays Kansas. But it's not college football season yet, not in Miami yet, because we got the win over Florida State this week.
Side note, I might go see Duke, Kansas, and Michigan State, Kentucky tomorrow.
Do it. If you have a chance to do that and you don't do that, you're just a bad person. Like, you're just a terrible
I'm looking to get
like a nosebleed if you don't go to that.
Just to go.
Where's that, MSG?
It's at MSG.
No, there are no nosebleeds in MSG. Just go to the game. MSG is a great venue to watch a sporting event. It's terrible to watch a concert. It's a great venue to watch a sporting event.
Tickets are $81 right now.
Yeah, but you're about to see 2 basketball games between what could be Final Four teams.
Should I just go by myself? I don't know anybody. I'm in New York on a job briefly, so I don't really have any friends.
Text Alexa.
Actually, that's a great idea.
You're welcome. All right. So anyway, now that Will has made his plans on this podcast, I just want to say, since every game that I fade Miami, we look so much better than we should. And this week against Florida State, I mean, we're like the reason Willie Taggart got fired. I love it. This is like one of those seasons that has been so disappointing. It's been so bad. We got Manny Diaz, first game of the season. We lose to Florida. We wanted that win. And then we barely beat Central Michigan, and we lose to Georgia Tech, which is just a pitiful, pathetic loss. But then we beat Florida State by 17 at Doak. And it's like, you can't really you can't help but smile at that. And we're 5-4 now, when what was looking like a season where there was going to be no bowl for a little while there. 5-4 now, at home against Louisville. Louisville's been pretty good this year. Louisville's
They've
been like
one of my teams.
if you had to do like senior superlatives for Louisville, it's, most improved goes to Louisville. Like they are playing much better football this year than they did last year, which is obvious. It has to be better. That's like the 2008 Lions not being better in 2009. Like you have to be better than that. So Louisville's been better. Miami's going to take them on this week. And of course I'm going to take Louisville plus 6.5 because that's the only way Miami wins. Is when I fade them. And you know what? What's great about this one is I can win the bet and Miami can look good. So
that's what I'm hoping for because I'm on this too. And I was on the Miami money line last week. I said there's a chance that there's a pretty good chance we win this. I can't believe we were getting that much juice on it. But if Louisville beats us, that wouldn't surprise me either right now. Like that's still, we haven't strung together any sort of consistency. And what I really fear from this Miami, and you said this last week, you were mentioning like smashing your head into a wall and trying to figure out this Miami Hurricane team. And so my strategy moving forward with Miami is to just pretty much take the underdog and get your points. Like take those points. They're free points. You don't know what Miami's going to. They could show up and play their hardest and use their talent and win like easily. And what do we beat Florida State by 17 points? I mean, on
killed
the road,
them. Killed them.
Handled Florida. Like that could happen, but you could also lose to Georgia Tech at home. Like those are the scales we're between right now. Like that's what we're in between. So here it's 6.5 points. I mean,
I got 20 on it.
I have 10. I'm not going to go that far.
I have to go wild because it's the way Miami gets more pumped when I really doubt that.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Miami win this game by like a field goal, so that we can cover this. But I just think more likely than not, Miami wins this by a field goal or a close game, or they lose. Like that's more likely than them winning. I don't like. When have we shown that we're just going to blow out a team? Like
last week against Florida State.
With Florida State, though, I get that. It's like a rivalry game on the road. But like you look at other
that's
wins,
also why I don't get it. Because those Florida State Miami games have been great the last couple of years, where they've been really close. I mean, the one year when Rozier threw the touchdown that actually finally broke the curse and all of these things. But it's crazy that we just beat, like, to me, like I said, we started at Miami in 2010, Will, and I know you were a Stanford guy before that. I'm a huge Rutgers fan, huge Rutgers fan. And since then, we have never seen that. We've never seen Miami just even last year, it was that insanely frustrating game where Florida State actually almost pulled it out, despite the fact that Florida State was complete garbage last year. And like to see that happen, I almost like didn't know what to do. I was waiting for the other foot to drop. Yeah,
I mean, basically, and I was kind of saying this, is just that we, like getting into looking at our wins, this is like when we beat Virginia, we didn't look all that good. When we beat Pitt, we didn't look all that good. And so for us to just be playing at home against Louisville, I just hope we can get up for the game. I hope we're not like, oh, we beat Florida State, Willie Taggart's fired, look what we did. Like, and then
that's for us to do.
And spanks us. And like, we don't even see it coming. We don't even give them the light of day. Like, this team is so inconsistent that I have to take the points here, even though, of course, I'm rooting for Miami to win.
I completely agree with you. I think those are all sound points.
Like, who knows what team is going to show up? We just don't know.
But whichever team shows up, it'll probably be a close game. But it's annoying because last week shows how good Miami could have been this year had they just played football the right way the entire year. They could have been so good, and we could have been in such a good situation, and we could be winning the Coastal. And that Georgia Tech game is going to be the one that haunts us. Not even the Virginia Tech game, which was also pitiful. This is going to be the one that haunts us.
UNC game.
No, UNC is still forgivable. It's still forgivable.
Yeah, but we still lost on like a 4th and 15 or something.
Yeah. No,
like,
there's so many
at those plays. Like these are close. All those
we
games,
would be
Virginia
8-1.
Georgia Tech, UNC are all close games.
If we had a field goal kicker, if we could stop them on 4th and 17 or whatever it was, and if we actually played defense in the first half against Virginia Tech, we'd be 8-1. It's brutal. It's actually like sickening to think of it that way because you see all the missed opportunities. If we had a kicker, have I ever mentioned the Miami kickers? If we had a kicker, Will, it's all it would have taken. But let's jump over. I want to jump over to the Florida State game now because it's another game that I have. And I think that Florida State having Willie Taggart get fired, most people, it looks like, are assuming Florida State is done. And I actually think it's going to be the opposite. Again, going back to the NFL, we saw this week. Who was it? Somebody. Now I can't even remember. Oh, I just lost my train of thought. But anyway, when a head coach gets fired, a lot of times people assume that they're going to lose. I don't think that's the case. I don't think Boston College is very good this year. We've seen that over and over and over again, where Boston College has just been kind of disappointing. And so I actually think that without Willie Taggart, they're actually going to play better and they're going to win the game. I think that like they're 2-point dogs to a Boston College team. I don't know. Why does Boston College get to be the favorite in this game, Will?
Because they're at home.
But they actually started off as 2-point dogs. This spread has moved 4.5 points.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably like Boston College is crap also.
Yeah.
I looked at that. It's just like I don't want to bet on Florida State. Like they could be all just like the expectations for Willie Taggart were so high.
It's so funny.
It is funny.
It's so funny. Like I know that Willie Taggart's a real person with real feelings, but it's so funny because of how cocky the Florida State fans were for so long. And I know that we're not going out there and winning national titles, but you just had Willie Taggart. And for as bad as Al Golden was as a coach, they had Willie Taggart.
Yeah, and at least like Mark Richt, like we got to 10 wins and like we're like kind of in it for like a season, and obviously it didn't end well. But like
we were in it 2 seasons.
Willie
one
Taggart
under Richt and one under Golden, yeah.
Willie Taggart never even faked it.
Yeah, like even the 1 year under Golden, when we beat Florida the first time, it was our senior year, 2013, the football year. We were number 7 in the nation at one point. And then we were 7-0, and then we fell apart because we actually started playing good teams, and everybody thought Florida was good that year. But like we faked it. Florida State last year, the highest they were ever ranked under Taggart was what they started off last year, right? Before they lost to Virginia Tech.
I feel like they were number like 4. or like they were.
They were like 17 last year to start the season, and they just were terrible. Yeah, they lost a home game by like 17 or something to Virginia Tech, and then they just never rebounded. So yeah, like at least we got to fake it a little bit. This Florida State program is in a lot of trouble, but I like them this week against the Boston College team. That another one of those teams kind of reminds me of like what we all thought we were going to get from Golden. I keep bringing up Golden, but where like it's so overhyped. This is the guy. Adazio is not the guy in Boston College. Like, let's just be honest. He's just not the guy. I mean, how many more chances are we going to give them and be told that this team is really good when the fact is they're just not really good? And we've been told that year in and year out, they're going to be a dangerous team. They're going to be a dangerous team. And they're not dangerous. I know they just beat up on Syracuse, but those are the teams they beat up on. They beat up on Syracuse. They beat up on NC State. They beat up on Rutgers. Then they beat up on Richmond. Like they lose to Kansas by 24. They lose to Wake. They lose to Louisville. They get destroyed by Clemson. Florida State just feels like one of those games where I just think they're gonna lose this. I really do. So I got Florida State plus 2.5. Only got 10 on.
I see it. I like it.
All right. So I only have the LSU Alabama game. So if you want to do all your talking, we can save that one for last.
I really don't have that many more. Like I said, I'm on 11 games. I've already hit most of them. I was looking to get one more in here, but maybe I'll just have to leave it at 11.
My bets weren't that bad this week.
They weren't, but you didn't take that many shots. So
Can't miss the shots you don't take.
Yeah, exactly. That's your mentality right now. All right.
Yeah.
I'll just do one. I only have 10 on this. UConn is a 35-point underdog to Cincinnati, and I think that Cincinnati is more than capable of blowing out UConn by a lot of points. Cincinnati is at home, and SMU and Memphis, those are kind of the teams that got all the attention last week in the AAC.
Great game, too.
It was a great game. That did not go under. That actually looked pretty good, and then it just got out of hand quickly. Man, yeah. But it was like 17. It was like pretty low scoring late into the second half, I think. Maybe I was just holding on to something. I don't know. Anyway, I think here is a spot where Cincinnati is just going to blow the doors off UConn. UConn has shown nothing to me that they are not one of these bottom feeder teams. Rutgers is not playing this week. Bowling Green is not playing this week. Akron is not playing this week. I needed something here, and I know it's 35 points, but hey, Cincinnati still their only one loss right now is to Ohio State. They've gotten big wins over UCF and what they beat. Like who else they beat? They beat Memphis.
I don't think so. Did they beat Memphis?
No, I don't think they
No,
have.
I don't
actually.
think they beat Memphis.
But anyway, they're right in the hunt there, and I think that they are like there's no reason being at home that they shouldn't blow the doors off UConn.
Yeah, I
mean,
love that.
It's just like 35. It seems high, but then I look at like I'm taking Ohio State as 42-point favorites, and it's like, oh wow, I'm going a touchdown higher for Ohio State. Like I think Cincinnati probably wins this by over 40.
Yeah. And I love that you just your fix is getting like a really shit team you can just laugh at. Like that's like your sadistic mind. You're just like, I need to just.
No, I saw the spread and then I was like, oh, that's, and then I realized it after that. Like, holy shit, this is like maybe I did it subconsciously. I didn't look for this. This really did. I was like, this like 35 is seems high, but it's not it's only 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I know, right? Isn't that sad when you start saying it's only 5 touchdowns?
Yeah, and that actually, wow, we're going to finish up pretty quickly here, but this is my final pick, which is even a lower spread. It's only 32 points, and that is Clemson. This is another team that I think is going to be really, we're going to get a lot of value off of these playoff rankings. In no world do I see Clemson being ranked number 1 or number 2 or even really number 3 in these first rankings. I mean, maybe they'll be number 3 and Ohio State's at 4. I don't think that's the case. Clemson doesn't really have a signature win this season. They've had the closest scare of the undefeated team so far. So maybe they will have kind of a chip on their shoulder going into this. Regardless, NC State, man, you thought they might be able to get it together against Wake, but no. Like NC State is in the doghouse right now. Clemson is on a roll. They've been blowing out, not even playing well. They've been blowing out opponents recently. Like they are kind of going on their tear as they get closer to the ACC championship game, and especially with these rankings coming out, I think we're going to see kind of the real national championship level Clemson. I don't think they are prone to it. Like if they were going to lose a game this season, it would have already happened against UNC. There aren't that many games left in the season. This is, this isn't a huge rivalry, but this is, a divisional team they play every year who they want to take it to. So I 32 points. I really feel like this will be one of those you look up and it's, 42-0 at the end of the third quarter. And maybe that does get a little dicey late. So I only have 15, but I do think Clemson, there's like NC State is not going to be able to keep up with them.
Yeah. And speaking of sitting up, so I think, what do you think here, Will? Clemson wins the national championship last year, clearly has the worst resume out of the top 5 teams, I would say, between LSU, Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, Penn State. I think that Clemson has the worst resume. If Clemson goes undefeated and you get an LSU team that loses by 3 to Alabama in Alabama, and Penn State has to play Ohio State, so it wouldn't happen. But if Clemson goes undefeated, they have to be left in that. They have to be in the top 4, no matter what.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Just because they won the title last year.
If you're an undefeated Power 5, it doesn't really matter what your schedule is.
True.
I mean, and there's no way you're going to have 5 undefeated Power 5. I mean,
you can't because Penn State, Ohio State play.
Right. And I'm just saying, just in general.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's possible. It's just very rare.
But I'm saying, like, would a 1-loss LSU team get preference over a 0-loss Clemson team if LSU's only loss was at Bama? Okay,
no. I really don't think so. I don't even think it can come to that. But
do you think LSU is going to lose to Bama this week? Will?
I don't think you can win the national championship, then go undefeated, and then not get invited.
Yeah,
back.
No, you're right.
Like you have to be able to defend your title.
That'd be a joke. Like the national champs never lost and they don't get to defend. No, you're right. So what is their spread at and how much did you have on it?
32. I got 15 on it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the biggest game of the week now, Will. LSU, who is ranked number 1 in the AP poll right now, is going to Alabama, who is ranked number 2 in the AP poll right now. And we're going to get the college football playoff ranking tomorrow, so maybe this is a moot point, but 1 versus 2. That's what we're getting here. When this season began, Alabama was a look-ahead line at the beginning of the year, a 17-point favorite over LSU. when the season began. I think that's an amazing stat. And I just think that that's something that needs to be drawn attention to here. This game is starting off at 6.5. And being that the SEC always plays good defense, of course, the over-under is set at 65. Insane that an LSU Alabama game has an over-under set at 65. Can we just talk about that? Like, wasn't there a national championship that was 9-6? Is that a real thing? Like, this is what the SEC has turned into, and I love it. 65 points for the over-under in LSU at Alabama.
Probably about
unbelievable.
Right.
I am not against it. I think it's 100% right. I just can't believe that that's how far we've come. I really can't. Will, are we going to be on the same page here, or are you going to go against it all?
I just got so worried. I just had this flash before my eyes. It's going to be LSU 1, Ohio State number 2, Alabama 3.
And Saban's going to get them to beat the living crap out of them.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. That's my only fear. Like, that's it, because I think LSU is a better team. We don't know Tua's health. I mean, I'm on LSU +6. I like getting
6.5.
6.5. I like getting points in a spot like this. But that's like my only concern. But LSU should be good enough to combat that, extra motivate. But like, they shouldn't, in a game like this, you're pumped all week. Like, the rankings coming out should not actually have that much influence. And I know I've said it for other teams, but for Ohio State, it might actually have an influence.
Because they're not playing anybody, so they have no reason to be pumped for that game.
In that Ohio State game, man, I tried to take Maryland. I was looking for reasons like not to take Ohio State. Like, oh, is Ohio State playing Michigan next week? No, that's not till Thanksgiving. Well, who are they playing next week? Oh, it's Rutgers. Like, there's nothing that Ohio State is distracted by. Like, that's full. Like, that's over the next 2 weeks, that's their toughest opponent is Maryland. They're playing Maryland and then Rutgers. I mean, it's like
crazy.
So
we're both on LSU though, man. That scares me. You sure you don't want to change now that I'm on LSU?
Dude, if Tua is not playing or if he's not fully healthy, like, LSU is a handful. Like, that offense is tough to stop, and they have a top 5 defense. They do, and I know their defensive numbers aren't as good. But it's because they're on the field more and they get worn down more because they have such a high tempo offense. They still have awesome defensive talent.
I don't want to say it's a changing of the guard because obviously Alabama's not going anywhere, but it feels like this is finally the time for Alabama to miss out. Do you know what I mean? Like, it always ends up happening. There's always like those dynasties that go. Every dynasty ends. Dynasty ends, and I feel like this is the time where it's almost expected that it should end, and it still ends. You know what I mean? I just feel like that Alabama team just isn't as good as they were last year. Last year, they were historically good, and that loss in the national championship was honestly shocking to many. But this year, they're just not that same team, and I think LSU is just playing a different caliber of football. I think Burrow he's just been unbelievable all season. And I think that they are going to be able to kind of do what Clemson did to Alabama last year, which is put up a lot of points. And if Tua's not up to his full health, I think Alabama's offense can struggle against LSU's defense because LSU's defense hasn't been terrible this year. So I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I think that I would lean under those 65 points. Feels like a lot in this big of a game. To me, this feels more like a 28-24 game where you're very easily clearing the under. But I don't know, man. I think this is LSU's chance. I think this is Burrow's time. I think this is the game. And every dynasty has an end.
Yeah, I mean, this would be so fitting.
Yeah.
My worry is, though, that if Alabama loses to LSU with like a hobbled Tua, and then Tua gets healthy, and their only loss of the season is to LSU, who would then be number 1 in the country, SEC champs. They likely beat Georgia and do all that. Then Alabama probably gets in over like a 1-loss Pac-12 champ or like a 1-loss Oklahoma.
Probably. And
which is insane.
Which is insane. Which is obnoxious because if you really look, I mean, who also like we always play this like who have you beaten game. And I love like earlier in this podcast, we talked about Minnesota. They haven't really beaten anybody this year. And so we're not going to give them any credit going and now just playing against Penn State. But LSU has beaten Auburn. LSU has beaten Florida. LSU has beaten Texas. 3 really good wins. Alabama's schedule, they've beaten Duke, New Mexico State, South Carolina, Southern Mississippi, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Arkansas. But because they're Alabama, we just sit here and we're like, they must be really good. But they have beaten nobody.
And that's why I like this LSU bet. Like,
yeah, I love it.
LSU has proven themselves. They've
Twice,
proven they can
3
win
times.
big games.
Yeah. It just feels like LSU, this is their last big test, and we've been talking about it all season, all the tests they were going to have. If LSU beats this Bama team, like I just said, they will have beaten Texas, Florida, Auburn, and Bama all in 1 year. They can lose their next game. I don't even know who they play next because this is the only game that matters. They can lose their next game and they're still going to be in the college football playoff because that's just unbelievable to beat all of those teams. I know Texas hasn't looked as good anymore, but they looked really good earlier on. After this, LSU plays Mississippi, Arkansas, and Texas A&M, so they get to finish their schedule the way Alabama started everything off. And I don't know, man. I'm feeling good about this one.
I do too. The more we talk about it, and if Tua isn't in full health.
Yeah.
That's a huge, Tua is what makes their offense so incredible and so hard to stop.
I completely agree.
Yeah, this should be a fun game.
Should be. What do you have on it? I have 15.
Let's go to 20. You talked me into 20.
I love it, dude. I love it. This is the week I turn it around. I'm going 8-0, baby. I'm going 8-0. I have Iowa plus 8.5, Ohio State minus 42.5, Ohio State, Maryland under 63, Minnesota plus 7, Purdue minus 1.5, Louisville plus 6.5, FSU plus 2.5, LSU plus 6.5.
All right, we have a lot of similar bets going through there. This should be a good week for the podcast on a whole. I got Iowa plus 8.5. The under in Penn State, Minnesota. I've got Penn State minus 6.5. Got Ohio State minus 42.5. Purdue minus 1.5. Did you include that in yours?
I did.
We got the over 54.5 in Stanford at Colorado. Got Illinois plus 14.5 at Michigan State. Got LSU plus 6.5, and I got Louisville plus 6.5. Oh, and UConn Cincinnati minus 35 at home against UConn, and Clemson minus 32 at NC State.
I feel much better about this week than I did about last week. We're in agreement, and that was my best week. Was when you and me were like in agreement on a lot.
Yeah.
I think we're thinking the same way here, but Alabama LSU will be a doozy. That's for sure. All right.
Or not. Or LSU could blow them out.
That's the way it should be.
Don't you see an LSU blowout more likely than an Alabama blowout?
I do, 100%. This game is Alabama's name, and they're at home. That is the reason the spread is the way that is the spread. Alabama has proven nothing this year. Nothing.
Man, they're going to steamroll
49-0 Alabama win.
Quarterback. That'd be so annoying.
That'd be sad.
Everything we thought we knew. All right. Well,
all right.
Looking forward to it. Well, let's get some wins here this weekend.
Yeah, we'll see everybody next week.
Peace.